Hello, Lower Force. Welcome to this second video on photo editing. And today we're going to try something that's got quite a bit more involved than the previous example of just copying and pasting, but it doesn't involve any hard work or anything especially challenging. So basically, there's this written tutorial that you're going to have a link to in Classroom, and I want you to work through it. It does go... So we're using a newer version of GIMP than the version this was created for. So there are a few changes. So I'm going to work through it myself with you, and you can just see those. So the first thing it tells us to do is to create a new image. So File, New, and tells us to choose an appropriate width, 256, 128. If you want more text, you're going to make it a little bit wider. If you don't care, you'll make it a bit smaller. So let's just go with, I'm going to make it 512. Okay, so I've created my new layer there. Sorry, my new image. And I already had, in fact, so because I've worked through this already, my background color, was already black. But if it isn't, I'm going to just change it. In fact, let's just blood fill. There we go. So if it isn't, what you do is you want to change your foreground color. So let's just do that. Okay, so this is the foreground color over here. It's the one over there. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to say change that to black. So just drag it all the way down there. It's black. Then the flood fill tool is over here. It's this little paint bucket. Click it anywhere. It'll fill the entire layer with black. And in theory, what you should have a black color and a white color. Because I now wanted to make my text white, so I could click here and change it to white. But what I can also do is you can always just flip those two colors around there by clicking on those arrows. Cool. So I've now done that, and I now want to make some text. So I'm going to click on the text tool, and you can change the font, you can change the size. I think my size is about right. And let's just go over here. Drag it, make it big. If you want to make it a bit bigger, you can just sort of hover either at the top, the bottom, left, or right, and you can drag it to make it smaller, bigger, and so forth. And let's just fill some text in. So let's just go. Oh, nah, that's gonna be lame. Lower fours rock, which is also lame. But I don't know. Maybe because I'm complimenting you, you guys will think it's less lame. Can't type, apparently. Okay, and that's not centered. So maybe what I want to do is over here, make sure I've got this layer selected, and let's just move it. I think it's if you hold down Shift, you only move the selected layer. Otherwise, you do end up moving everything. So I'm holding down Shift, moving that's nicely centered there. Great. Okay, so that's the next step done. Then after that, we start working with some layers. So what we're going to do is, I want this text to stay here. I don't want to mess around with the text, but they want us to add a little bit of a blur to it. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to create a new layer from visible. I could have done it in the layer menu, but it's easier sometimes to just right click. And from visible basically is going to combine both of my layers. So you could see over here, if we hide that, we've got our black background, we've got our white text. So when I had both of them visible and I said create a new layer from visible, it selected both of them. And now what I want to do is I want to add a blur. So I'm going to go blur, Gaussian blur. He suggests 7, the author, but that is incredibly blurry. So I'm in fact going to leave mine at 1, 1.5. Click OK. So I've got a nice little bit of blur there. Let's see what they say we should do next. After that, they're going to say, let's add a new layer. So we'll go layer, new layer. It does not matter whether it's filled. You can see mine is filled with transparency. That's what those little rectangles indicate. So in fact, there's nothing. It doesn't matter though, because we're going to add some color. And here is where we find our first difference from the tutorial. So they say go filters, render, clouds, plasma. It's actually now located under filter, renders, noise, plasma. And what you can do is you can change the random seeds to change the different colors. I think that looks quite cool actually. You can change the turbulence to do something, presumably. There we go. Actually, I do not like that at all. So I'll definitely leave the turbulence at 1. Or, well, whatever it is. And just click OK. Great. We've got some random color in our picture now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called bump mapping. And what bump mapping does is it sort of takes a layer as input, and it makes it sort of gives a little bit of 3D effect to whatever layer we're on. So we're on this layer here with plasma, and what we're going to do is we're going to lift some of these pixels up to make them 3D. So we go filters, map, bump map, and the first thing you need to do is you need to choose an input layer. This again looks slightly different to the way it does in the tutorial. So our input layer, we're actually going to choose our visible layer, not the text layer, so that we want the blurry text. And click OK. Well, sorry, double click on that, and then I've chosen that. And then you can just increase it. You can make it a little bit deeper. I don't want to go crazy. That looks quite cool, actually. Right. And now I'm going to apply what's called a layer mask. So I'm going to go right click over there, and I'm going to choose add layer mask. And I'm going to make it white. And what the layer mask does, it's basically applies, if it's white, it applies everything there. If it's, and wherever it's white, it applies everything, and wherever it's black, it doesn't. So it's like fully applied. And what they tell you to do is to make sure that the layer mask is selected. And if you take a look over here, whatever layer is selected has got a little white background. This mask here is white as well, so you can't see the white background. I mean, you can see it getting a bit thicker, but that's how you know it's selected. So we selected there, which is in fact not what I want. What I want to do is they say we're going to copy the visible layer in. So I'm going to copy this layer. So I'm going to right-click copy. Oh, no, sorry. I'm going to choose the visible layer. I'm going to go edit, copy. And then I'm going to go into the layer mask, and we're going to go edit, paste. And what that's done is, in fact, what I want to do is just click over here. I'm just going to choose anchor layer. That's going to put it in there properly. If you take a look at the layer mask now consists of this blurry text. And so what that's doing is that our plasma color, it's all still there in the background, but the layer mask is only letting everywhere where it says let's lower falls rock, which is in white, through, and that's what's coming through, and that's why that suddenly happened. Okay, and so that's the basics of how a layer mask works. Sorry, so we've done all of that. And now we're going to add a little bit of background color. So we're just going to choose new layer, right click, new layer, and let's, you can actually name your layers. Not a bad idea, in fact. Background, and let's give it a color, something like that. And let's choose flood fill. Okay, I clearly didn't set my color. Oh, that's because I just selected the right thing. So that's cool. Flood fill, and you can see it covers the whole thing. What I can do, and there's another reason layers are cool, is I can just move this down underneath our plasma, and there we go. Now what I want to do is I'm just going to adjust the levels and clear it up. So you want to make sure that we have the layer mask active. Okay, so there's our layer mask. We go colors, levels, and that's just going to adjust our sort of like black and white levels, which is going to clear things up. And I found out that if you do something like that, you actually get a really cool, it like really brings it, sort of highlights it, brings in prominence, makes it a bit less blurry into focus. So that's cool. So there's our lower falls rock. And now what I want to do is, so that's nice, but I'm going to create what's called a drop shadow. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a copy of the black text, which if I hide everything, well, okay, the white text, we're going to make it black, and then we're going to just move it down a little bit there. So I want to create a copy of this. So I'm just going to right click on my visible text layer. I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to go to colors, invert. And what that did is it's going to make the background white. Well, let's do this. Hide everything. That's there, and that's the inverted colors. So hopefully that makes sense now. So I've inverted my colors, and then what I'm going to do, let's just drag this up, is I'm going to make everything transparent. So the white layers will be transparent. I'm going to go colors. It's layers, transparency, color to alpha, and the color we're choosing to alpha. Alpha is the transparency channel, and we're choosing make all the white colors transparent. And there we go. So now if I do that, if I hide those, you can see we have that. Okay, and now what I want to do is I can just move this layer down a bit. So I've got my visible copy there. I'm moving the wrong thing, crying out loud. So do this, choose the move tool. If I move, it moves everything, which is not what I want. So I just want to do this, and I think it's shift. And I'm screwing something up. And I figured out what the problem is. In fact, I want this copy above the background so that we can actually see it. There we go. And now when I drag it, there we go, hold down shift, and there's a little shadow. And let's just put it there so it looks nicely aligned. Cool, there we go. And so I'd like you to create your own text, one of these. Now, if you decide, so what you can actually do, you can always change the colors over here. If you could go back to, you can edit a bit. If you want to change the background color a bit, you can do that. We could want it purple for some reason. I don't know. Oh, sorry, that's the tag. So if I wanted purple for some reason, I could choose a nice little purple color here, and I could flood fill, and there we go. All right. So, and then if I save this, it's once again, it's going to save as an XCF. So we'll call it floating text. But then what I want to do is I want to say, let's export it as a JPEG floating text, and that's what you can upload to Classroom.